All right, we'll call the meeting to order. And just to make sure my mic is on, can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay, good. And right on. And for the folks, yes, all right. So for the folks online, just to let you know, this was an announcement made earlier. I don't know if it came through, but items 1 and 4, the DA 75 2022 Whataburger, and item 4, DA 69 2022, the Monument Junction West Lot 5 prelim, have been taken off tonight's agenda. We'll be dealing with 2 items on the agenda tonight. And as Mr. Foreman said as well, they will not be before the board next week as well, just so you know online. So with that, let me just make some opening statements and then we'll get to the pledge. All right, thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to state that the Planning Commission hearings and meetings are open to the public in person and via Microsoft Teams streaming application. Note that the meeting or hearing information can be found on the Town of Monument website. The Planning Commission's role is to conduct public hearings and to make recommendations for the Board of Trustees about land use matters in the Town of Monument, and each commissioner agrees to a non-partial, objective, and fair review. This includes no prejudgment of the projects. Should a commissioner wish to disqualify him or herself for any conflicts of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so now. Additionally, for those who are attending tonight's public hearing meeting via Microsoft Teams, if you wish to speak during a public portion, please ensure that you utilize the option to, quote, raise your hand and have your computer microphone on ready to go. You can speak directly to the commission so that your concerns are heard and to ensure a timely and fair hearing. We ask that if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak on the same subject. So that applies to everyone here. If there is just repetitive comments, it just sucks time. But in terms of making comments, we would just ask, and I will be limiting to 3 minutes for comment. You'll step up to the podium. You'll just put your name and address on the record. I believe there's a sign-in sheet as well. All right. So with that, let's say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, on to our next roll call. I'll leave it to staff.
Chairman Chris Wilhelmi,
Here.
Vice Chairman Martin Trujillo,
Here.
Commissioner Danny Hours,
Here.
Commissioner Kathy Green,
Here.
Commissioner Ray Egley,
Here.
Commissioner Tony Peck.
Here.
Thank you.
We have 6 to quorum.
Thank you. Our next item is just for the approval of last month's meeting minutes, and hopefully I will not be participating. I was not part of the meeting in that way, but I would like to ask the commissioners if anyone would like to make a motion regarding the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple changes that need to be made.
Please.
Teresa, on page 1, under the citizens' comments of this town project, the first public commenter was Kenneth Kimple. It says Kim Kimball, but it was Kenneth Kimple. Was the as far as his statements, I'm not going to say whether they were appropriately in there. On page 5, under public comments, item 4B should be Kimple, not Kimball. And at adjournment, number 6, it should be Vice Chairman Cirillo moved to adjourn, and that likewise on the last line, Vice Chairman declared the meeting adjourned.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Hours. Any other changes or modifications from the commissioners? Okay, and with those modifications and edits, would anyone like to make a motion?
I move we approve the minutes for the August 10, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
By Commissioner Trujillo, second.
Turn to staff for a quick roll call or? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, for the vote on the minutes, Chairman Chris Wilhelmie,
I will abstain.
Vice Chairman Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Hours,
Yes.
Commissioner Kathy Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tony Peck.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and just for everyone who's joined us, we will move to the public hearings and recommendations. The first item, which is now line item 2. And before we get to it, just so you know, there's a presentation by staff, followed by possible additional information from the applicant. With that, there's public comments. And so that's when the public's invited to make a comment, again, trying to limit that to 3 minutes or so. Just do it orderly if we can. And then following the public comments, we'll close that portion. And the applicant could make some additional comments on rebuttal or otherwise. But at that point, it's not like a ping pong match. It's not a tennis match of public comment to applicant. It's really just a closing of those. So with that, I'll proceed to the first line item, which is number 2, DA.572022, investing in Front Street plat.
We were having a little technical difficulties tonight. Tonight's my last night, and apparently the share drive I don't have anymore. So Teresa had to do it, and she usually doesn't have to put it up, and she has to put it on the other computer. I'm sorry. I'll just take one moment.
No problem.
This is going to be a joke to a lot of people, but I'm going to have to say next slide to Teresa to go to the next slide. So this project is a plat. It's a final plat. There's a typo. This is the previous land of ordinance that was passed that has preliminary final or final plat. That is per our previous code. An ordinance was recently passed, but it's not in effect until 30 days from the 24th. September 24th will be in effect. But their plat for tonight is in accordance with the previous code. So there's no changes. The only changes that would be needed is a final plat. Just want to make that clear for everybody tonight. Next slide. Investing in Front Street is along Front Street and 2nd Street within our downtown business district. Next slide. Like I said, this plat is within our downtown business district within our zoning map, which is conventional zoning. Their site plan, since this is conventional zoning, was approved administratively about a month ago, and it was in accordance with the land development code for downtown business district and with our comprehensive plan. And the town of Monument will provide water and Monument Sanitation District will provide wastewater services for all development within investing in Front Street. Next slide. The lot is 1.15 acres in size, which has 15 lots. The lots range in size from 2,063 square feet to 8,190 square feet. There will be 6 structures of townhome-style residential units, mixed-use development containing residential units over commercial retail spaces, and direct access off of Front Street and Second Street. Parking for the residential units is provided within the attached garages, and the commercial business will have some within the development and on-street parking, which is allowed for the downtown business district. Parking for the mixed use will be a combination of, as I said, as on-street and off-site parking, both located on-street to the adjacent town lot. Plat is consistent with the town's land development code, and all applicable code standards were met. Next slide. The plat is in conformance with the comprehensive plan that within 2,389 gross acres of land available for development, this future land use plan provides an opportunity to move single-use developments to a mix of complementary land uses. There's also to reinforce downtown's road as a Tri-Lakes region center and concentration of government, of office, not-for-profit agency, educational facilities, and unique shops and restaurants that will attract businesses to our downtown area with this project. It will allow a wider array of land use types to meet changing of the community needs. It will promote infill development on vacant land, reinforce the downtown's role as a community in a Tri-Lakes regional center with different type of shopping, commercial and residential. Next slide. And staff recommends approval of investing in Front Street subdivision plat based on the findings that the proposed plat is in conformance with the review and approval criteria as a plat as outlined in our land development code. Next slide. And again, this is the entitlement process for a plat, what's required. As I said, this is conventional zoning. Their site plan was approved, and now their plat has come forward, and plats are required, if it's conventional or not conventional zoning, to go to Planning Commission and the board. Next slide. And this is the review criteria for a plat. Next slide. And applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have for this plat, not the site plan. The site plan is not on hearing tonight, just the plat. And if the applicant would like to speak on behalf of their project, they're more than welcome to come up.
All right. Do we have the applicant here? Okay. All right. So no comments at this time? Okay. All right. Thank you, Debbie. With that, I would like to open for public comments on this line. And if anyone would like to make a comment at this time, at least we'll start with the in-person folks. We'll look to the virtual after. But if anyone in person would like to make a comment, please step up now. Sure.
Good evening. I'm Terry Hayes with the Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Corporation and Terry Hayes and Visitor Center. And I really, to be honest, I don't have a whole lot to add that wasn't in your packets reading through all of the positives that are in this project. It is a mixed use, as exactly what should be going into downtowns. Our empty lots downtown really need to be filled. We need to be a vibrant downtown. Retail brings retail. So we have some great retail shops downtown, but over the years, some have come, some have left. We need additional, and even our retail owners will say the more retail that there is downtown, the better it is for them, because people want to come and have choice, and they want to be able to go to different places rather than just one or two. So basically, from an economic development standpoint, this is a win for the residents downtown. This is a win for the businesses downtown, and this is a win for the town itself. So I would just recommend approval. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next. Yeah, go ahead.
Steve Torgerson, 17577 Leisure Lake Drive. And I think that this mixed use in the community is great. However, the devil is in the details as we move forward. There are certain aspects of this that, if done correctly, could really benefit our community. And if done incorrectly, it could hurt the community. And I just want to make sure that as we move forward, that we pay attention to those details. And especially as this plat goes forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in person would like to make a comment? And for our folks online, if you do have a comment to make, please raise your hand and we will get to you in 1 second. All right. Seeing no further comments here, at least in person, I'm looking virtually, and Therese, any hands raised? I'm not seeing any.
Not at this time.
Okay, we'll give you another moment or so. But again, just raise your hand and we'll patch you through. All right, Therese.
None at this
None.
time.
Thank you very much. Okay, with this portion, we will close public comments, having no further comments from the public. I would ask if the applicant has any additional information or a mention right now. Please let us know. Sounds like no. Okay. And so with that, I'm just going to move to the closing of the closing of the public comments section. I'm going to turn to my fellow commissioners for questions and comments. Please.
Is there an applicant? I think I'm gonna need an answer this. It has to do with your entrance off Second Street.
Come on up, folks.
So that makes
Darlene Scalrandius.
your entry, you say you have entrance off Front Street and one off Second Street.
That's correct.
Where is the one that's going to go off Second Street? There's an existing drive there that appears to be for the house. Is it going to be on the other side of that, or are you sharing it?
That's an easement on our property for the driveway, and it will be that same driveway.
It will be the same driveway, okay. And the reason I ask is if you were here in 2009, we had the train horn stopped, and there were 3 conditions for that. And one is we had to close an entry that went on to the barn, and we had to extend that median, and we had to do some stuff to the arms. But those 2 things really can't be changed because you guys don't want to lose that.
It's the same cutout opening.
Okay,
It's the same apron, same driveway.
okay. And you'll share it with the house. Okay.
Yes.
Other commissioners, any other questions or comments? Yeah, please.
Hi, this is Commissioner Egley. I had a few questions. It shows that there's, from what I see on your plat, 6 structures in total. Is that correct? How many of those structures will accommodate residential use?
It'll be all 6. The 3 on the front on the commercial main front street of town are commercial down and apartments above. And the back 8, which is a cluster of 3, 2, and 3, are townhome style.
Okay. It looks like you're about 14% short on the required parking for that, but you indicate there's another 54 spaces within 300 feet, 100 yards. And part of that is utilizing what you consider a town lot. Can you expound on that for us?
Diagonal lot across the tracks. It was suggested that would be considered accessible for them.
Raise the mic a little higher.
Okay.
Otherwise people online can't hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, we were told that would be considered appropriate distance for
Yes,
the.
for our project.
Okay.
In addition to,
And then,
and then the off-street parking or on-street parking. actually.
and do you envision then that some of this parking may infringe upon other businesses in the area on their parking?
No.
And I guess I'm not convinced of the assurance that that wouldn't happen, but Obviously, you're going to have 14 townhome units, either above or standalone. Is that correct?
There's 8 townhomes across the back and they all have 2-car garages.
Okay,
So they won't affect any of the parking, public parking
okay.
outside the project.
But any additional permanent vehicles associated with those townhomes or visitors to those would park in the other area considered a retail space within that? Is that what you're
We're gonna have
suggesting?
an HOA, we will address that. They would have to park.
Okay.
Perhaps over in the, across the tracks in the parking lot over there.
Okay,
And then there's 21 additional sites on the.
right. Okay. All right. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other commissioners?
Commissioner Trujillo, looking at the same subject regarding that roadway on Front Street, Second Street, questions more for staff. Snow route, talk to me about how that affects if there is on-site parking there on Front Street as they have that.
It's private property. They're in charge of their snow plow.
What about on Front Street? for the
That's
citizens?
always been plowed by the town of Monument.
Okay, but if there is on-site parking in there, is there any restriction for that on-site parking for residents to utilize that individual thoroughfare?
We do have no parking signs during snow events. Signs marked on Front Street, so they can't park there overnight on Front Street. If you go north and south, there are signs up.
So right now, let's say it's built, there is no parking on Front Street overnight at this point, and it will continue to be a ordinance within this within the city of Monument.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think we're good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, commissioners, any further dialogue between us? Okay. Would anyone like to propose a motion? Happy to. All right, I'll go ahead and do it. I, Commissioner Wilhelmi, move that the Plan Commission recommend approval of investing in Front Street subdivision plat based on the findings that the proposed plat is in conformance with the review and approval criteria as outlined in section 1802-230C of the Town of Monument Municipal Code of 2022.
Second.
You know, and I'm actually gonna, well, let me close that because there's still a condition that
Oh,
was
go ahead.
recommended. I'm sorry.
Take that second.
With the following condition, that the property owner pays $18,960.48 to the Town of Monument for park fees prior to plat recordation, which is in the recommended motion.
Chris, may I interrupt?
Yeah.
When you make your motion, can you please say final plat instead of plat?
I'm sorry.
Okay, that was an error on staff's part. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're done. We can, okay, yeah,
Now I
done.
second.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, we will now vote. Chairman Chris Wilhelmi,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Martin Trujillo.
Yes.
Commissioner Danny Hours,
Yes.
Commissioner Kathy Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tony Peck.
Yes.
So we have a vote of 6 and it is approved.
Okay, thank you very much to the applicant. We'll move on to the second item on our agenda, number 3, as labeled DA.63 2022 Trailers Direct Express Rezone.
Again, this is Trailers Direct Rezone. Next slide. Trailers Direct Rezone is off of Beacon Light Road, which once was ABC Landscaping area. They're going to be taking over that property. And ABC Landscaping has a project under review today off of Cynthia's next to Elite Cranes. Next slide. The subject parcel was rezoned to ABC Landscaping PUD on August 17th, 2020. The permitted uses with this PUD are limited to warehousing, storage, and office space associated with the landscape business. Since Trailers Direct Express is not one of these uses, they wish to rezone instead of to a PUD, they're rezoning to a straight zone. The single lot subdivision ABC Landscaping was recorded on September 30th, 2020. The subject property has been platted as Lot 1 of ABC Landscaping. Town of Monument will provide water, and Monument Sanitation District will provide wastewater services for Trailers Direct Express, just like they have been for ABC Landscaping. The existing surrounding uses include Wolf Business Park to the south. Next slide. The applicant proposes to repurpose the existing site for outside storage and sales of new trailers. This type of use is not permitted with the existing PUD. The approval of a rezone is required. The proposed use is not unique, that the comprehensive plan actually recommends this area to be light industrial in the future land use map. Next slide. On your screen, it does show, I'm so sorry, I have the wrong map on this screen. I apologize, but in our comprehensive plan, the future land use map does show this area as light industrial. This will allow for an array of land use types to meet the changing needs of the community, and it does meet those requirements. Next slide. Staff recommends approval of Trailers Direct Express based on the findings that the proposed rezone is in conformance with the review and approval criteria as outlined in section 1803-140 of the Town of Monuments Land Development Code. Next slide. On the screen is the evaluation criteria for a rezone. The applicant has met all this criteria presented to you for their rezone. They are in conformance with the comprehensive plan to be light industrial. And they're going to continue to use the property with the current building on that property as well. Next slide. And the applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have tonight. And he's sitting in the back.
Good evening. I'm Chad Cox, Western Engineering Consultants, representing the applicants, Mr. Tom Smith and Craig Owen with Trailers Direct Express. They've got an existing business in Norman, Oklahoma. More. They basically sell brand new trailers. Just to recap and appreciate your presentation, Debbie. As you know, ABC Landscape developed this site just barely over 2 years ago. So where they're going to pick up, they're going to use the existing building. And then there's several items that they're actually going to enhance on the property. Some additional screening. They're going to relocate trees and screen to the north and to the south. They're going to add pavement at their entry, concrete pavement at the entry, and then pave to the ADA parking in front of the building. They're going to escrow monies for a new sidewalk on Beacon Light Road. There's an additional fire hydrant that they're going to participate with XL Rigging, another proposed light industrial property to the north. And the ABC Landscape site did not have a formal drainage pond, and the proposal for this site, consistent with staff and their engineering consultant, will provide a full detention system. So ultimately, I think Ms. Lynn, capped on it very well. This particular use for new trailer sales wasn't allowed by the PUD, but the comprehensive plan looking at this to be light industrial, that proposal is to zone into what the comp plan already has it expected to be. Available for further questions for Tom or I.
Thank you. We'll do the questions after the public. So just keep notes, what you hear from the public. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, and similar to the prior line item, I'll open it to the public here in person for any comments that you have. please stand up, let us know, and let's get rolling. There we go. Come on up. Thank you.
Mike Kopasinski, 18865 Spring Valley Road in Wakanda Hills. These questions are probably going to be more for the applicant than the commission. How many trailers are going to be on the site for sale at any given time? Should I be addressing that directly?
No, it's kind of weird, but address, and I'm sure the applicant is taking notes, and we are as well. So
Okay.
there will
Then
be,
they will then
yes.
answer okay.
Yep.
And then, not to be answered here necessarily, but I'd like to understand the differences in the rezoning from PUD to the light industrial. Is that on the town's website, comparing the two, just looking between the two documents, understanding what the differences are between the rezoning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I assume traffic study and everything will be part of future consideration and all the things that go into the application.
Thank you. Yep. Public comments, come on up. Thank you.
Neck, 18850 St. Andrews Drive. Well, trailers could be anything from a motorcycle to a fifth wheel 40-footer. So what is the scope of these trailers? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public here in person would like to make a comment? Therese, can we put that map back up? While that's happening, that might, yeah, come on up.
Steve Torgerson, 17577 Leisure Lake Drive. One of the things that's been happening with light commercial is the love of light. And when it comes to trailers, as we said, we don't know exactly what trailers are, but the parking lots for these trailers are often lit to an exorbitant amount of foot candles. And the dark sky is important to us as a community, and it should be considered as something that is really scrutinized and looked at. Even recent development, even though it's supposed to be under dark sky requirements, is not. Just by allowing a different lights, different signs and things like that. And anytime that we're selling vehicles and trailers, there's always concern of by the owner of some kind of vandalism or stealing of those vehicles. And so they're lit up, and something that really should be looked at. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the public here like to make a comment? And for those folks online, if you have a comment to make, please raise your hand and we'll be with you shortly. All right, I don't see any here live, and so I will turn virtually, and I don't see any yet, but I might be missing.
I do
Therese?
not see any hands at this time.
Okay, so again, if you're online, please raise your hand if you have a comment to make, and this is the time to do it. Again, looking at the crowd, no one.
Okay, I've got a hand
We got one.
now.
Okay. There we go.
Can't quite tell who it is though.
All right, just a moment.
There it is. Chins Barton. And I will open up the mic now. And looks like he needs to open his mic on his side.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So I'm Christian Segarian. I'm at 350 Scrub Oak Way here in Monument. And I just wanted to second the previous comment about the concerns for the bright lights for this proposal. Other concerns of mine really aren't high on the priority list with this one. I would approve it otherwise. but the lighting situation, I think, really needs to be strongly considered and addressed before moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Therese, any other, I don't see any, but just to make sure, any other hands up online?
None at this time.
All right, now I'll just turn one more time to the audience. Okay, and with that, I will close the public comments portion, but I will invite the applicant up to answer as many of the questions, and we'll remind you, of course, of what was presented.
Thank you. Actually, the questions point out things that I forgot to mention, so we appreciate that. First on the list, and I don't know, I can roll out these plans. I didn't double check the number of trailers. I will state that light industrial has a 40% lot coverage threshold, and we do a lot of projects in a lot of different places, and 40% is a typically commercial and industrial, you're looking at 80-85%. So, you know, the coverage of this lot will be relatively half of what you see in other jurisdictions.
Is that?
Define that.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not
So-
following you.
So let's say you have an acre of ground.
Okay.
The code says that you can use, and we'll even say an acre is 40,000 square feet, just so it's round.
Okay.
So 40% of that would mean 16,000 of it is what you can cover with building, parking, trailers to be sold, things of that nature. It means the other 60 is landscape and, you know, open space, if you will.
Okay.
I don't want to say open space because it's not dedicated for that. It's basically landscape undeveloped.
Thank you.
And then the trailer count, let me move here real fast. We have a number listed on here somewhere. So we have 30-foot stalls. We have 124 20-foot stalls. Another 18, so add those up, 30, 124, 18, 132, 172. And all those trailers, you know, they're stacked back to back to back, if you will, 3 deep, side by side by side. So that would be the number of trailers. But as I mentioned, I really want to put that in perspective with the amount of area that we're covering. We still have access for the fire department in between the trailers and the building. We still have parking for employees, parking for customers, the building itself, you know, and the 60% that's landscape and basically existing native vegetation. Traffic study, another good point. We've already prepared a trip generation. We've worked through with staff and engineering, review the limited number I want to say in the staff report was 28 trips per day. So a full traffic analysis wasn't warranted per the review, but you know, we have provided what was requested. Trailer types, excellent question. I know we covered that, and I'll let Tom speak more to that.
Yeah, the majority of these trailers are gonna be cargo trailers. And cargo trailers, so there might be a few steel trailers, but the majority are gonna be cargo.
What's a cargo trailer?
Trailers,
Just describe. Okay.
enclosed cargo
Please speak
trailers.
in that.
Oh, sorry. What is it?
We won't be selling horse trailers, but cargo trailers, enclosed trailers that
Pace American, but
Pace is one of the brands and Neo is another one of the brands.
single, double axle.
Yep. They can pull cars in. Some are smaller for, you know, electricians and plumbers and things that keep things inside.
I think the key, and we lead as well. When I said we covered it, I meant we internally, Western Engineering, we're working with Trailers Direct to better define what those trailers were, especially when discussing with staff. They're basically anything you, or I'm gonna say anything. You're not gonna pull it out with a semi truck. It's what, you know, carpenters, you know, what people with pickup trucks and SUVs, those types of trailers, you know, whether it's a, you know, the hydraulic lift bed that, you know, landscapers would stack their materials in. And the majority of them being the cargo trailers. So that was traffic, then the type of trailers, lights, excellent question. That's on me. Photometric plan is required for any proposed lighting. And the way we approach projects, we tell our clients, give us your wish list for lighting, you know, do you want this area lit? You know, we have to meet minimum building code, certainly. But if you have other areas that you want to have lit, then we turn to a lighting consultant. They have to provide a photometric plan. And Debbie, correct me where I'm wrong. I want to say code is there's a 20-foot limit outside the boundary that has to be.
Yeah. Yes, all our projects have to be dark sky ordinance. And recently, our former director went around, looked at old site plans, old PUDs to make sure they were in conformance. Some were slightly out, and they were all sent letters to fix their lighting and make sure they're dark sky ordinance. And our code enforcement officers are making sure that that happens. Just to let everybody know.
So the key as part of our package, number one, we have to put together with a sub-consultant a plan that meets town code. So we wouldn't submit a plan for lighting that isn't downtrodden and meets that code where lighting is not being directed off site. Obviously, as everybody knows, you can see a farmhouse in the country, you can see that light, but that light isn't lighting, you know, where you are a mile away. And there's a big difference of, you know, lighting not being directed down and visible versus lighting outside the area.
Would those lights be dimmed or otherwise shut off during certain hours of the night, or would it?
Great question.
That's a great question.
Okay.
I would assume so. I think one key that I've talked at length with Craig, Tom's partner on, you know, is the lighting isn't going to be phase one. The lighting is something, you know, down the road. There's all the other improvements they want to make. They basically want to get the lot leveled up, improved. Well, first gain approvals, hopefully, and then do the work on site, you know, put those monies aside for the sidewalk, pay for the hydrant, those things. And then the lighting will come somewhere down the road. You know, it could be a year out, could be 2-3 years out, or may not even happen. But what we recommend to them is let's submit it, let's get it through staff and engineering review so that when you do want to light it, it's in accordance with town code.
Okay.
Did we miss any?
I think
There was a PUD
there's
versus
a
light
PUD
industrial, and I can answer that question. When ABC Landscaping came in 2020, we had a previous code. Our code was since updated since that in 2021, and it was mandatory for them to rezone to PUD. We don't have that mandatory in our new code. It should have been light industrial and should have stayed that way. And their project was light industrial, but it was required to rezone to PUD. So what they're doing is reversing their zone change that ABC and Landscaping did to go back to the light industrial, which is more stringent than a PUD. A PUD, you come up with your own standards. A light industrial must follow the town's land development code and our standards. But those are the differences.
Okay. Thank you, Debbie. All right, and just stay where you're at. Let's turn to the commissioners for any questions or comments. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll close the public hearing. So again, for the public, just even though a question might be triggered by our discussion, we won't be taking any further comments at this time. Okay. So at this time, I'll look to my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Hour.
Commissioner Hours, based on the lighting questions, I would ask, can you talk about the security? One gentleman, you know, pointed out security is a big factor for you. So lighting is one part of it, but can you talk to the security issue?
Yeah, certainly from the fencing standpoint, it'll be perimeter. There's existing fence on site, and the intent is that it will be, we actually have a proposed gate recessed in so that a full length semi that might be delivering 12 of these cargo trailers or 6 or, you know, whatever they can fit on them. One semi truck will be out of off the roadway of Beacon Light, and then that secure gate will sit there. So the entire perimeter will be, I think it's 6-foot chain link as it is. And then I don't know if cameras or any other proposals that you may have for security.
We'll definitely need some cameras as well. But in today's world, those can go a long ways off of the building itself. It's already there.
And then the other question I have, you're putting out funding for sidewalk. Has all the projects that have come before us on Beacon Light required the sidewalk?
Their project is adjacent to Beacon Light, so we started requesting that for the future whenever that happens. It could be 10 years from now, for all we know when that's going to happen. But when it does come time, they're going to have an escrow account for their percentage of the sidewalk in an account that we'll use in the future.
I think that's excellent. I
Mhm.
just didn't recall sidewalks being a part of what we've heard before on
Yep.
Beacon Light.
Oh, go ahead.
That's that's all I have.
All right, sorry, Commissioner.
My questions are for Debbie. And Debbie knows this, a zone change is serious. It's serious.
Mhm.
You don't do it because I want to do something else with my property. You do it because a mistake was made.
It wasn't a mistake made.
Yeah, wait
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Either, there are two reasons. Change zones. Either a mistake was made or you are changing it to catch up with a new future land use map and you were somewhere far behind. Just because this was PUD, it was a PUD using a light industrial use. So we're not trying to catch up to that future land use plan. And I didn't think it was a mistake, but then I thought what you said earlier, maybe it was a mistake. So the PUD was not a mistake.
No, with the old code that was in 2020 the applicant was required to rezone a PUD. Even though it was a light industrial use, which was in the future land use map, they were required to zone as PUD, but their PUD was strictly for a landscape
Why was
business.
it
Yeah.
required?
It was part of the land development code. It said if you were in PID that you had to rezone.
That
I mean,
switched
Regency,
over
yeah, and then you had to
to a
rezone to PUD.
PUD.
And we
I
took
don't
that out of
know
the new
where we're
code.
going with this.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be just giving out map amendments. It should not be done. It's a bad path for the town to take. And I'm not against so much this project, but I strongly feel they should have been asked to do a PUD amendment. With the PUD amendment, they could still have that use and we could put conditions on it. It's not true that it's more lenient. We could be saying where you can pave, where your fencing is, what kind of landscaping, what kind of lighting? Do we want more stringent lighting? You cannot condition regular zoning. You can with PUD. I feel like they were taken down the wrong path. I feel like this should be an amendment to a PUD. And I don't see a reason to change that to light industrial.
I'm sorry, but I disagree.
just-
So
I'm not trying to be mean. I'm more than anything trying to explain why I don't think I can support this.
it was.
That I could support it.
It was light industrial before ABC Landscaping had to rezone with the old code, and with the new code, we made sure that wasn't a requirement that you had to rezone to PUD.
And you have to draw the lines.
Yes, so this is
And
what
say,
staff
you can't
decided.
Change the zone every time we change the use. And I think we ought to draw the line here.
Commissioner Trujillo, I concur with Commissioner Green. Part of the problem is there's a lot of ambiguity here in relation to what standards are being met. I have questions in relation to the trailer size. What is the smallest trailer that you have in that lot currently? If that goes in, I just looked at your website. There are several different types of trailers, but my concern is what is the smallest and what is the largest? Can you tell me that?
Well, goosenecks.
Microphone. There you go.
Thank you. I mean, we could have goosenecks.
And I just want to give you the heads up because realistically, this is what Commissioner Green is referring to.
Mhm.
Without us having that limitation to say in the PUD what you can and cannot do with that, now it leaves it open and now the community suffers in the long term in relation to all of the factors. So that's why I'm asking you a very specific question, because my next question that I'm going to follow up with is what is your ingress and egress plan associated with those trailers as they are purchased, whether it's going down Beacon Light Road to the south to 105 or to the north on County Line Road, because that's going to affect the citizens that are currently located in those areas.
So as far as the size, I mean, we could have goosenecks that are up to 24 feet.
And that's a
which would be
concern.
around the area.
Yes, sir.
But that again is hauled by, a regular pickup truck. That's not hauled by a semi by any.
But still, that is a deterrent for the property. When I look at the comprehensive plan of 2017, the community stated inside community manners as of September 2016, they stated they wanted community that was safe. In Colorado, we're #1 in the nation for vehicle thefts and property thefts. So now we're putting an entity inside our community that potentially may be a problem. That's our concern inside our community. I'm not saying it's an answer, but when we go to the PUD vice the light industrial, which was already zoned, and I completely agree. But without the availability to change or limit or put those conditions on and to make sure that the community is safe, I do not concur with the light industrial.
The light industrial in our land development code is per the standards that the community wanted in our light industrial zone
At that
district.
time.
In our new zone district, no, when it was rewritten in 2021, we had stringent lot coverage, it's 40% now.
Okay.
And they're adhering to that. They're adhering to putting asphalt within their property. APC Landscaping did not have asphalt on their property. They're making major improvements. They're putting a pond for drainage on their property.
And that's great on
So-
the property, but again, it becomes a security for the individual community.
And they're going to have a rolling gate for security.
But it doesn't still in fact take care of the community as they're traveling on Beacon Light North and South.
There's only 28 trips a day.
So says a traffic person, but again, the people that live on Beacon Light, they may see that differently.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
Thank you.
All right.
I will.
Yeah,
can I,
thank you.
Yeah,
just
sure.
to add, we had a professional engineer, traffic engineer.
I'm
prepare
with you.
that.
And we
and his-
unfortunately, we have that problem in Jackson Creek. We have that problem on 105. There are professional engineers. These individuals are telling us what that standard is, but in the end, it's the community that's going to suffer because of construction, because of all the movement pieces that are out there, that realistically, we have to consider the individual impact of the citizen. That is our job.
Well, I'm just saying, it's not a layman's opinion. It was prepared by a professional that's licensed through the state of Colorado.
Certainly.
And has to meet the standards of it.
And as representatives for the community here in Monument, we want to ensure that their voice is heard for the individual movement as they're moving their child to and from school, to the shopping stores, and to all the variables. That's what we're trying to do here. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one more thing, and that is, I understand how this got in. Outdoor storage is not a permitted use in light industrial. It's a conditional use. Outdoor storage is. Now, I understand.
No, it's a permitted use in light industrial. That's why they're here tonight.
They're here. I'm looking at our code. I'm looking at our code, and under industrial uses, you go down to outdoor storage and it has a C. Is that not conditional?
I'm gonna look at that right now.
What I think they're coming in under is something else. I think they're coming in under sales. Outdoor sales, or something similar. I can't find it now. Bear with me. Vehicle sales and rental, vehicle service and repair heavy.
Correct.
That's what they're coming in.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that outdoor storage
But
is
they're
not
not,
a permitted.
but they're not
use.
storing. They're selling.
I understand the
Okay.
nuance, storage versus sales, but it's all, things that have to be outdoors. And the only point I'm trying to make is.
It goes for a car dealership too. That's outdoors.
Huh?
A car dealership is outdoors.
It's not anything that's, that's wrong with how they came in. I just would rather see it come in as a PUD, amendment to a PUD that allows this.
But it's more strict using the land development code than a PUD. It's usually more strict with the land development code, the light industrial zone district. It's more strict than a PUD. An applicant can come in with their own setbacks, their own design requirements without using the town's design requirements, which is more strict. So they were more strict on this project. They could have had 60 or 70% of trailers. They could have had double that amount of trailers if they did a PUD, but they're not. They're only using 40% of the lot, and 60% is the native trees that are out there in their pond. So it could have been the opposite.
Does the town not those design guidelines?
Yes, we do. And so does the planning commission and the board, but the light industrial has its own design guidelines within our land development code as well.
All right, just a couple questions from myself. So traveling 25, what's this going to look like? And I give reference to the good old Pilot that drives me nuts every time I drive by it, and there's trailers. Now I realize that those are different trailers. However, they're sitting there and they just are an eyesore. So tell me about what it's going to look like on 25 heading south.
Is there a chance to pull the site plan up?
The site plan is not under review tonight. Their
I
rezone
know.
is, so I cannot bring their site plan up.
Right, right. And this is part of my understanding as to this issue.
Well,
So,
it was a great question. So when I drove down tonight,
Mhm.
I live up north. So as I drove down, I mean, we've droned the property. So we've got a very high resolution image of everything around it and the property itself, you know, including all the landscape piles and other materials that are scattered all over it. So as I drove it tonight, I particularly, just for the ability tonight, you know, I really eyeballed it. You know, there's a lot of vegetation on the site. It's screened. The highway interstate sits above it.
Right.
What you're going to see is similar to what's there, with the exception of the landscape materials that are piled between the building and the interstate. The trailers, I would say 80% of the trailers will all be on the south side of the existing building that
Right.
ABC Landscape has.
Right.
And there's very few that'll be on the rear with the employee or visitor parking on front.
okay. And is there planned signage to advertise to all the good folks who are traveling on 25, Trailers Direct?
I don't believe we have one in our plan right now.
Okay.
A sign.
The majority of our business is online.
Okay.
They come to us online, so.
Yeah.
The majority of our business comes to us online, and that's where the marketing efforts are really given. Yeah, we know this from Oklahoma, our store in Oklahoma as well, so.
Are replenishments made during the day, I assume, during business hours? Nothing at midnight or 4 a.m. to bring in new trailers?
Yeah, during business hours, because they have to be unloaded.
Okay.
Our staff has to be there.
So it's online, but there is a in-person retail component?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. There'll be four employees there selling the trailers. And it's quick. I mean, like I said, they're picking out these trailers before they even get there for the most part. So the big work is done prior to. Fairly quick, actually.
Okay. And in terms of that site plan, I'll just reference it again. Is it fairly accurate in terms of the trees and the what's depicted on the site plan for the landscaping, or is there more to come?
Yeah, you've seen the proposed site plan?
I'm just looking at black and white on it and what was part of that
Yeah, so a lot of
package.
there's some trees that come up from the south and make kind of a little bit of a rounded peak.
Yep.
Towards the building. That area is where the trailers will be. Those will be redistributed per code, 1 per 25 along the north and south property lines.
Okay.
And then to go back to your sign question,
Mhm.
we're not proposed, there's no sign, freestanding sign proposed currently within the site plan. So if a sign was to be proposed at a later date, it would likely
have
be
to,
on the
right.
building and in accordance with light industrial standards.
Understood. Thank you. And then again, just the view from Beacon Light, it looks like there's a bit of a drive and some sort of offset gate, and then a drive into the dealership, so to speak, or the
It'll follow the
office.
existing drive that ABC uses. It'll be the same. The only difference is ABC doesn't have their gate offset.
Right.
So this will set it off so that there'll never be a vehicle backed into the right of way.
Okay. All right. Other commissioners?
Commissioner Ours. I'm getting a little confused here, so I want somebody to help me, okay? Had two commissioners call into question whether this should be a PUD or not, okay? What are we approving tonight? Just the rezoning and not the details? Is that
Correct. It's just the rezone.
Now, my other question is, This will come back to us at some point.
No, it will not. It's conventional zoning. Conventional zoning,
I see your
This
point,
is what
man.
we're talking about.
I see your point.
conventional zoning has to follow to the T our land development code in every way. So it gets reviewed by staff, it gets reviewed by a referrals, it gets reviewed by an outside engineer. It gets reviewed by the fire department, Black Hills Energy, Mountain View Electric, CDOT, the county. And it's gone back and forth for review to get it to our code standards for 6 months. So it's staff does do their job, our referrals do their jobs, our on-call engineer who is here tonight does do their jobs to review every conventional zoning site plan.
I understand that.
I know, but there's been public comment about that. So I just want to make that clear, not just to planning commission, but to people online and in the audience tonight.
I understand that. And I know that we've had many projects that have been bought before us that have been reviewed by all the entities that you just mentioned and have been reviewed and approved by the planning department. But we sit up here and we represent the people that are sitting out there in the audience and the people in the community. And this does not permit us to make comments, as have been pointed out by a couple other commissioners, about details related to it.
You are able to give comments. This project has been posted on our website. Residents are allowed to provide comments, even if it's a straight zone, conventional zoning, to the planning department. I just want to make that clear
I
too.
understand it. And Debbie, I understand tonight is your last night. Nobody is trying to make this difficult for you. But I do think that the points that have been made of the two commissioners are very important points. And it's going to cause me not to support this project. Not that I don't believe in the project that you have, but the process is not. Thank you.
Other commissioners, any for you?
Last comment, we talked about the trailers, we talked about the travel plan going up to North County or the Coney County Line Road to 105. We talked about the trailer size. One thing that really concerns me is that we have Palmer Ridge High School located off to the west, or correction, off to the east. Down here in Southern Colorado, we take pride in our football team. And one of the things is when they're playing football, and now I have dark skies that are interrupted by the views that we see for Pikes Peak, it's going to cause a problem to the community. This is our home team. This is our home community. And I think behind the scenes is that beauty, dark skies, all of these play a factor. The community here is very tight, and that's why 90% of the people here moved because of that small town feel, the quality of life. But it's also that community. It's growing. We know it's going to grow. But again, when we put something that close to that entity that brings this community together, it's going to impact it. So I would make sure that, with whatever consideration comes out of here tonight, you consider that, because that's going to have a direct feeling on the community, whether you realize it or not, because it's going to be west of I-25. We already have the highway noise and we have the corridor. However, it's going to cause an impact to that view of the Pikes Peak region and what we see today as far as the beauty that this community brought everybody here for. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
All right, other commissioners. Yeah.
Commissioner Peck, it might be a moot point at this point, but the 28 trips a day, could you guys just go into a little bit more detail on what that entails? Is that regular car traffic? Is that trailers coming in and out? What's that look like?
I've got the trip generation that's prepared. There's about 18 different civil engineers to the world, geotechnical, foundation, structural, traffic. I'd have to go grab that from my folder and, pull that up if you'd like me to.
Yeah. I would like to understand what kind of traffic is coming down.
Give me a second.
Okay.
I understand the beauty of Colorado. I'm a Colorado native myself. So I do understand that. And I understand what you don't want to cover up the beauty that everybody comes here for.
And I think that,
that's-
our community right now is watching. They're just like Debbie had mentioned, I mean, our community is very attuned now to what's going on inside the community. So again, it's the consideration that we're asking, because again, if it's not involving them, you know, it's going to be a hard sell. Even if it were built, it will be a hard sell. Okay. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'll just read verbatim, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sustainable Traffic Solutions, Joe Henderson, BEP2OE. Traffic impact letter for Trailers Direct Express that will be located on the east side of Beacon Light Road, north of the Wolf Court intersection. Beacon Light Road is a 2-lane roadway with a rural cross section and a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit in the vicinity of the site. The business will sell trailers for use in construction, landscaping, and hauling. Refer to this website for more information. Site plan contained in Figure 2, and it shows a single access plan from Beacon Light Road. This lot was previously occupied by ABC Landscape and is currently vacant because they moved their business out at that point. I think the business had already been sold when he prepared the letter. The amount of traffic generated by Trailers Direct Express is expected to be low and distributed as shown in Figure 3. Trip generation section. In order to estimate the traffic impacts associated with this development, the amount of traffic that will be generated by the project was calculated using rates contained in the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE, Trip Generation Manual, September 2021. Reference. Trailer sales is a very unique land use, and trip generation doesn't have rates for that use. Rates for recreational vehicle sales were used because that land use was the closest to the trailer sales land use. The development is expected to generate 28 trips on an average weekday, 2 trips during the morning peak hour, and 4 trips during the evening peak hour. And then he goes on to level of service analysis to evaluate the performance of intersections within the study area.
I think
I
that,
believe this was based on the traffic engineer's
Okay.
request.
That's probably fine. So
Yeah.
there's no clarification in the study whether or not,
Well, there's more. So the next section was level of service at intersections. I
That's
believe
kind
he's
of
got in here.
got it. Okay.
The
Sorry.
distribution north and south. Is that what you're looking
There
for?
you
Let's see here. Got a couple of other items. Town's roadway design and criteria, technical criteria refers to requirements following the state highway code for construction of auxiliary lanes. Would not require, let's see here.
I could help answer a question. I'm pretty sure one of you can answer. How many trips a day does a semi come and drop off trailers? I could help with facilitate your questions if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, so you're looking at, after the initial, we'll fill up the lot, right? That'll be quite a few to begin with. And then after that, you're looking at four to five. And it's not all semis because a lot of them are
David, or
weekly.
4 to 5 semis weekly. And how many vehicles smaller than a semi weekly?
Those are based upon the sale.
The sales. So 4 to 5 times a week, a semi drops the trailers off. And then after that, whoever buys the trailer, runs the trailer, comes and picks that trailer up. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Okay.
And we don't get very many people that just come and walk the lot looking for trailers. They'll pick.
Yeah.
They'll pick prior to coming in. And those aren't all semis that are dropping off those trailers. There are also a lot of hot shots. So they're, pickups with long, like goosenecks that may have 3 on them, 4 on their long trailers. So
yeah, I think that answers the question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay,
I don't see a breakout on exiting the site. It appears 60% is coming from the south and 40% from the north in, but he doesn't show the exiting pathway. I assume it's based on the same assumption of coming in.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hours. Okay, I have a concern based on what I've heard here, so I'm going to ask a question. We have 6 members here tonight, which means that depending on how the vote goes, this thing could be denied for some of the wrong reasons possibly. And I don't want to see that happen to these folks. I have no idea how you're actually going to vote based on the comments that you've made, but I'm going to ask the chair if we could entertain a motion to table this subject until we're clear as to why this is not a PUD, why this has to be as it is presented to us based on the ordinances.
So how about this? Any other questions to the applicant at this time? We can have them sit down and we can
No.
dialogue. Okay, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And to Commissioner Hours, let's just quickly discuss and I will consider for sure. So any other thoughts as to what Commissioner Hours just mentioned in terms of tabling to try to get some understanding or better understanding as to how this is being presented to us tonight?
I have a thought. And I also, before I say it, I'll say the commission does not have the authority to do what I'm going to suggest. But if the vote is negative, if the vote is no, I would like to see the applicant considering going back to the town and reapplying for an amendment to the PUD. And I would like that, I think it would be nice if the town would credit any fees they've paid to the town towards this different land use action.
But,
Okay, just a thought.
well, my comment would be, Commissioner Hours, my comment at this point would be, Debbie has made a point that this is presented to us based on the ordinances and based on the code. Therefore, I think what needs to be settled is why it's being presented to us this way. I do not believe what you just suggested would be something that the applicant could do if, based on what Debbie is saying, it is not part of a PUD any longer. Therefore, if it's denied by this commission tonight, the applicant is getting hurt, and I don't want to see an applicant get hurt until we understand. I think once we understand that this is the only option for them to present this to us, then I think there would be a positive vote. But I'm concerned about what kind of a vote it would be tonight, and I don't want to see the applicant get hurt, and that's why I'm talking about tabling.
Question. Hypothetically, if they did come in tonight as an amendment to a PUD and they explained everything they did to that they're improving on that property per our land development code for light industrial, they did it to the T, and we went back and forth for quite a while. You would have approved it because it was an amendment to a PUD instead of a light industrial zone district? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, what
Yeah.
I'm hearing from the other commissioners and is that we have no option based on what we hear from the applicant, based on what the applicant is providing. We have no option to place any condition on approval based on what we hear and what we think is not consistent with what the comprehensive plan and or the code.
If I may interrupt, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The future land use map does show this as light industrial. They followed a light industrial zone district to the T. It's an approved use within the light industrial zone district. They did everything to the T. So hypothetically, if ABC Landscaping never came in, that land sat vacant right now and was never ABC Landscaping, and it would have been light industrial to begin with their new code rewrite.
Yep.
So I just want to make that clear.
And I'm not questioning that. I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning is that there's two commissioners that have spoke very clearly that they think it should have come in on a PUD. And based on that feeling, and based on you saying it comes in differently, and I'm not questioning you other than to say, and I'm not questioning them either. I'm saying I'm concerned what the vote is going to be. And if it's a tie vote on yays and nays, the applicant is going to get hurt tonight. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know how they're going to vote. But if they vote, if the vote is made 3-3 or 4-3 or what 2 or whatever it happens to be, not to approve this, the applicant gets hurt. And that's all I'm asking. Only I would think that the applicant would even be pleased that we table this and we get ourselves cleared as to why we have to consider it this way, than for us to possibly hurt the applicant based on disagreement as to what has been brought towards us. That's all. I'm not trying to make an unreasonable issue.
So at the next hearing, hypothetically, if you do table it, you want staff to come back and tell you why the applicant submitted this way? I just want to make it clear
No,
what you would like staff to
exactly
do.
why the ordinances, and go through the ordinance,
Yep.
go through the detail that says this is the only way that this project can be brought to this commission. It cannot be brought via a PUD for these reasons, because I don't think that's understood here.
Could I?
Yeah.
Debbie knows it could have been brought. I mean, it's in here.
It could have brought either way, and the applicant decided to do it this way. Yeah.
It was a call between the applicant and staff to change zones. And what I'm arguing is I don't think we should take that lightly. I don't think we should ever do it unless it's for those two reasons. It could have come in, and staff agrees, it could have come in as an amendment to that PUD. And I'm saying we can put more conditions on that PUD. And I'm gonna throw one out. Don't know if I would do it, but I'm gonna throw one out. That is a beautiful stand of pine trees in front of the old landscaping building. That is not going to be saved now. They're gonna take it down, put the trailers there and replant. Maybe we could look at something where that's saved. There are a lot of things we could do in a PUD that simply cannot be done if they rezone the property. And here's something else. If they rezone the property to light industrial, they may be in business a year and then they may leave. And guess what? Any light industrial can go into that space. We won't even know. Because it's not a PUD.
But that's why we have a straight zone too. And our straight zone, the light industrial zone district list every single approved light industrial use that's allowed for that district. So if someone did come in, they left, someone came in, they have to follow the land development code, which you all have approved, our new land development code in 2021 with all those approved light industrial zone districts, and what Megan Harrington updated to our land development code as well. So it did come to you with all those approved uses.
If the rezoning, if it changes to a light industrial zone, they will always be bound by the design guidelines in the zoning ordinance. And there are setbacks, there's, amount of landscaping. They'll always have to abide by that, no matter what use goes in there, but.
Yeah.
I concur with Commissioner Green, Commissioner Hours. One of the things that I think that what we're asking from staff is, as we talked about when we did look at that land board, or when we did look at that usage, we brought also the option of giving us time to think through this portion, Because you're right, it used to be, and it is still, or it was at that point, light industrial. There's no question about that, Debbie. I mean, it was what it was. Now it's PUD. We have an option to put those conditions on it. That's all we're saying. We're not bashing the community. We're trying to make sure that we understand why, but also to look at it, to put on those restrictions to enable the community to have that voice. That's all we're doing. What I would ask, since obviously, you know, we're going to be reduced here a little bit, obviously for Mike, is to possibly look at a couple of weeks. We come back and we have another meeting that's off session or that's in session within the community to talk about the issue as to what are the benefits of that PUD specifically for this, as well as the light industrial with the applicant as well. But again, to have clarity on this subject, because again, yes, we're not debating what it is or is not. We understand that. But I think with the conditions that we're allowed to put on them, it makes it even more restrictive, more so than what you see in the light industrial. Because again, we do have the professionals that are doing their job. There's no question. But the community's seeing it maybe a little differently. That would allow them to at least have that voice to put those conditions on for recommendations to the user. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
And we can keep dialogue going. We can also propose a motion. I would like to, I'm not inclined to table. I definitely want to, I think we should move this along to some degree. But if anyone has a motion to propose, given what we've been talking about, you throw it out there and see what sticks.
Chairman, if it's tabled, then are we going to come back in 2 weeks or a month with the same proposal?
Yeah, I don't see anything changing. I think it would be just
To change.
before us in the same way with some clarification.
I don't have the motion in front of me, but if nothing's going to change, I would read the motion as is, see what the vote is, and, you know, then maybe it passes, and if not, maybe it'll come back in another format.
Sure. Commissioner Hours?
If it doesn't pass, can it come back in another format? The answer is, huh?
If you make a motion for it to come back in another format, if that's the motion you want to make, or you want to make a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions, and that condition could be another format.
That could be made tonight,
Yes.
which would then any,
And then we would still have to bring it to the board and for the board to approve, agree with you. And if they agree with you, then it will come back to you. Do you understand?
Debbie, if it was denied tonight,
Yes.
it can come back another time
Yes.
as an amendment to a PUD.
If that's what you're making why you're denying it, you have to say why you're denying it.
I understand. But
Then
if
they
it's
can.
Denied.
Denied, and you say because you would like to see it as an amendment to the PUD, you have to specify that clarification, if that makes sense. And the BOT has to agree to your denial because of XYZ, or approve with condition to XYZ.
I'll open it up. Yeah. Go ahead.
Motion to approve or deny, or even to amend. Ultimately, it's still going to go to the board on Monday. Is that correct? And their decision will then be to consider staff's recommendation, consider your recommendations, and to do one and the same.
Correct.
So what happens here, we still go to the board. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Thank you.
okay, hopefully this is my last comment, Commissioner Aaron. It's my understanding from the two commissioners that have expressed concern about whether this should have come forward as a PUD or as it's come forward. And that to do this rezoning, for us to be doing this rezoning tonight would be compromising the ordinances or I guess that's where I'm confused. What the point you brought up, it sounded as if you're saying we shouldn't do rezonings under these conditions because it was a PUD. And that's what I'm trying to get clarity on is, are we rezoning something now that sets a precedence for future rezonings? That's what I think needs to be clarified and without hurting.
Yeah.
And that's why I was talking about the table until we knew for sure why we cannot do it.
Right. Right. My look on it is the precedent that's set and given the alternative that we have.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
I have no problem with the project, but
Okay.
but and I'm not sure that if setting the precedence is going to be a problem, that argument can be made to the Board of Trustees to not approve the rezoning. And then the precedence is locked.
And just for the audience here, again, the planning commission only makes recommendations to the board. Ultimately, the board has the final say, which is what the applicant did when he came back, or I'm sorry, the engineer for the applicant came back and just affirmed that this still, regardless of what we determine here tonight, will be in front of the board. So just keep that in mind as well. We try to have a good dialogue and discussion, and ultimately it's just a suggestion to the board to then take action. Okay. Just want to clear that up. Having said all that, anyone want to put forth a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Egley, I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Trailers Direct rezone based on the findings that the proposed rezone is in conformance with the review and approval criteria as outlined in section 18.03.140 of the Town of Monuments Land Development Code 2021.
I'll second it.
We will now take a vote. Chairman Chris Wilhelmie,
No.
Vice Chairman Martin Trujillo,
No.
Commissioner Danny Hours,
No, and I'd like to have the record show why I vote no. I'm voting no because I'm concerned that the approval would be setting a precedent for rezoning that needs to be clarified before the project is approved.
Commissioner Kathy Green,
I'm voting no, and I would like to state on the record that, I'm against this because I feel like I feel strongly it is not the appropriate use of a rezone. And it should have gone through a different land use process.
Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tony Peck.
No.
We have 5 noes and 1 yes. It does not approve by the Planning Commission.
All right. Thank you again to the applicant for your time tonight. We'll move forward. And it looks like on item 7, we have non-agenda public items. So these are just in regards to our purview. Again, knowing that we're here to make recommendations, knowing that we're talking about land use issues. If there are any non-agenda public items, and we'll try to limit this, now's the opportunity to take a moment, cap it at 3 minutes, but to make a mention on the record of your views. So if anyone would like to step up, not all at once, and here we go.
I'm Matt Drunk. I live in Monument, 17136 Buffalo Valley Path. Basically, I wish they were still here. I really want to apologize to those guys. This has been, from my understanding, the very first no in the last 2 years. The group of people that are here, planning meetings are never this big. We are here because there's a distrust of this board or this commission, the Board of Trustees, and the town planning department. We are here to hold those people accountable because there is this distrust. What I saw here tonight over a few acres and some trailers, your intensity in questions, I wouldn't be a part of the Save Monument movement if this was how this commission always was run. So I like what I saw here tonight. While I may disagree that this was a big deal, Whataburger and the apartments were on the agenda tonight, and I expect the exact same intensity and argumentation and frustration coming from you at those. And if not, it shows me where you're really coming from, because those guys are coming from Oklahoma because they believe Colorado is a beautiful place, right? And they want to make this community better. It's on Beacon Light. It's on the west side. There's not a whole lot there, and that's okay. I'm okay with what you guys did tonight. But again, you need to be consistent because this is the first no in 2 years. I'm expecting a lot more down the road and a lot more conditions, a lot more money for parks, and a lot more for the community as a whole, because that's who you're for and that's who our board is for. And if that's not the case, I will ask that you would let us know now and let those things go through, because if you're going to let everything through, those guys shouldn't have been dealt with that. Does that make sense? Okay, that's all I had to say. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Mr. Kimple.
Ken Kimple, 16151 St. Lawrence Way. First, I'd like to say, Debbie, I know it's your last night. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Wish you the best of luck
Thank
in
you.
your future endeavors. Hope you didn't want to have this night the way it's been. Yeah, I just wanted to, I wanted to start a dialogue with the board and hear some thoughts and get some clarification for the residents, because a lot of people have questions about the absence that we're missing a director. Now we're gonna miss Debbie. So what's been the selection process for getting this engineering corporation to take over a contract, if you will, to continue reviewing plans and providing information for you to vote on, instead of putting a hold on all decisions until we get staff hired and up to speed? Was there a bid posted? What's the timeline on that? Because there's not droves of people that are here in the audience to move to Monument. These are current residents that are concerned about future projects and the due diligence that they want to see that all the members of the board have been doing. I've seen it. I've been here time and time again. You guys, I think you guys do a very excellent job asking a lot of detailed questions. But with a contract coming in, an engineering group coming in to take over as the director, I have a whole bunch of questions. Because in Title 18 and the Land Development Code, I see a whole lot of conflict, because that planning director or this contractor have all the same responsibilities and duties as a town staff director. I mean, we're talking about Chapter 18.01.180, violation and enforcement. The director authorizes steps 1, 2, and 3 in Part F. In Part G, termination of use. It's up to director and opinion. Compliance, Chapter 18.01.210, authority to issue and granting permits. You go into also, the director has authority to review and render administrative decisions. And that goes in with the review process chart in Part N of 18.01.220, Table 1.1. Spells it out in there. Big one, Chapter 18.01.420, establishment of departmental policies. Under that contract, will they be able to do that? Or are we just should we just pause everything, slow things down to get it right? So everyone has their due diligence in processing all these applications. Chapter 18.01.440, payments and fees and refunds. The director can make recommendations and have these waived. Is that contractor going to be able to do that? Should they be able to do that? That contractor, if this did go through, they're also supposed to represent the town at neighborhood meetings.
Mr. Kimball, I'll give you about 30 more seconds. Just
So that's all I have. There's a lot in Title 18 Land Development Code that's director responsibilities. And I think all those need to be answered before you continue processing applications and reviewing plans. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Yes.
I'm Steve King, 255 McShane Place. So tonight there were supposed to be the apartments in the Whataburger and it got pulled. And what I want to say is our previous planning director came to me at some point. We had talked about combining the preliminary and final PUDs into one package so that you would get all of the detail. And I was in support of that. And I wrote a lot of comments on that. And in the end, it didn't turn out that way. So what it ended up turning out is that even though that applicant was supplying a preliminary and final PUD in their original application, what you would have got tonight would have just been the site plan with the setbacks on it. And so part of why that got pulled was because that had a lot of conflicts. It didn't meet some other criteria, which I'm super happy that Mr. Foreman found those and was able to pull that. But it essentially would have allowed the whoever was going to be the planning director in the end, with whether it's a consultant or whatever, to approve that final site plan, that PUD that you would have never seen. And so wherever that confusion was, and if I was misled, I'm not going to go down that road, but I did recommend that we do that because I wanted everybody to get all the information at one time, and you can make a smart decision rather than getting preliminary PUDs with site plans and then final PUDs with building footprints and elevations and all that. So I'm happy that that's come out and that we're going to fix that problem. So, and I just want to tell you that was not my intention. My intention was that you'd have all of that detail. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Yeah, please.
Owen Skulski, I don't think I'm in your district, although I live in Monument 4591 Red Rock Ranch. This might not be the appropriate venue, but I'll say it anyways. My wife and I, we just moved here a year ago. Maybe 30 years, never had the chance to invest in a community. This is our first time to a meeting like this. And just want to thank you for your professionalism, the way you talk to one another. This could have been gone down a rabbit hole if you didn't watch yourselves, but I really appreciate that. And we really appreciate the way you guys are taking this community seriously and doing what's best for the community, maybe not always for someone who's trying to make a little money in Monument. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience, the live audience? And for folks online, if you have a non-agenda land use related comment to make, please raise your hand in the meantime, and we will get to you. I'll turn again to the audience. All right, seeing no one else online. I don't see anyone with their hand up, but Therese, just to confirm. Oh, okay, that's fine. Come on up. Yeah, you can come on up. All right, just anyone online will wait. Go ahead.
Yeah, Robin Wright from 19814 Doa Drive, and been a part of this community since 2005. And I just wanted to say I appreciate Mr. Trio talking about the community and Palmer Ridge football. I had 2 all-state football players. They're playing in college now. And one of the things that when I saw your conviction of the sky and the units and just the preservation of the view, that's important to hear. And then also, Ms. Green, when you said that we should never just be rezoning for the purposes of use, you know, those are things that are coming up in the future. That I understand that there is a plot of land by Global European Mission, and it goes north right next to the high school. And that is up for discussion to have apartments in there, maybe 4 stories high, 3 stories, which would cancel any view, which would totally destroy a lot of traffic use through there. So I was really happy to hear your support for, not just rezoning for purpose and also you for preservation of skies and preservation of light, because those things come into play for some of that. So appreciate it very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, yeah, in the back, come on up.
I'm Julie Vaughn. I've been here before to meetings. I think I'm going to be coming more as I become more distrustful of what's going on around. At any rate, I just wanted to say we've lived here since 2001, and I'm noticing more and more water restrictions. I'm reading more in the paper about Colorado doesn't have enough water. And I just wanted to request that as you do go forward looking at apartment approvals, I understand you've already approved a lot that aren't even built yet, but as you do go forward, that you think about slowing it down a little bit and seeing if we have enough water for what you've already approved that isn't even built yet, and for us that are already here. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the audience? Okay, and I'll look again online. I don't see anyone with their hands up. And Therese, just to confirm, I'm not missing anyone.
Not at this time.
Okay, so at this time, I will close the non-agenda public items and thank everyone for their comments. It is appreciated, and certainly encourage everyone to go to board meetings as well. We are not the board. We are the Planning Commission. So just to remind everyone of that. So I will first ask staff on reports, communications, announcements. Of course, we know, Debbie, this is your last meeting, and you will be missed. And thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Understand you're going to Florida, so enjoy it. But from a reports, communications, anything from staff? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, we're gonna miss Debbie. You know, it's unfortunate that we lost our planning director and our planner too at the same time. They didn't talk to each other. They just said, "Hey, I'm leaving." Shoot, I think you went to Nina and said, "Hey, I'm moving to Florida." And Nina said, "Wow, I just about to go talk to Mike and turn in my resignation." I was like, so they kind of talked about that, about timing and everything like that. It's unfortunate, but the town has taken measures to address that. We have hired Jacobs Engineering. We did follow all of our purchasing policies in hiring them. We did a quote for 3 different companies to come in. They all met with Debbie. They met with me. We interviewed all 3 of them. We followed all of our policies on that. To your statement, I will still serve as the town manager, but also I will be the planning director. We've done this before to where I think before we hired Megan, I had to be the planning director, came and assisted the planning commission here. Also, before we hired Nina, I had to do it. So I will be the planning director acting, but also we've hired Jacobs Engineering to assist the town in the application process and bringing them to the planning commission and to the board of trustees. We have Sean Snow and Mark Kitzmiller here with Jacobs Engineering. I think they've worked over 6 years for the town of Monument already on engineering plan review for the planning department and for our board of trustees and for the planning commission. So they've worked they have a relationship with the town already. We verified that they aren't working for any developers in El Paso County, and I don't think you're working for any in Denver also, right? Correct. Yeah, so we verified that. I put out a statement today. We sent it to the board of trustees. I think we copied, we put it online too. So that's where we're going to go from now. We also are interviewing 2 people on Monday for the planner 2 position, and then we have some applicants for the director position. So, but we'll start that out. We'll start the review on Monday for the
Okay.
planner 2 position. So we're gonna miss you, Debbie.
Yep.
But also at the same time, I have subcontracted with Debbie, and
Mhm.
Debbie is going to be available to us for consulting and stuff like that over the next month or 2.
Okay. Thank you. And it sounds like final authority at the end of the day still rests with the town.
Yes, we just present to the planning commission and we just present to the board of
Right.
trustees. The final decision is not the engineers.
Right.
It's not the consultants for planning. It's not the town manager. It's not anybody in our staff. The
Mhm.
final decisions come to the board of trustees.
Okay. Thank you for that
You
clarification.
bet.
Planning commissioners, any reports or communications announcements you'd like to make? I don't have any. Yeah, Commissioner Hours.
Commissioner Ayers, to the town manager. Based on what I heard you say, and based on the questions that were asked by Mr. Kemple, it seems to me that what you're saying is we'll get advice, we'll get coverage from the contractor, but I will make the final decision and act in those steads where the planning director can in fact make decisions that a contractor would not make. Is that
Exactly.
correct?
That's it.
Just
Yeah,
one.
for Title 18, I will serve that role.
Okay, I thought, I'd just like to clarify things, and I think that's important.
You bet.
Another question I have, when do you hope to have a new planning director in place?
You know, that's difficult to say. We're talking about that today. We're not the only community that is searching for a planning director. There's several communities out there that are missing planning directors, including El Paso County, Colorado Springs is missing they're not missing their planning director, but they're missing an assistant planning director. They have been able to replace that. El Paso County hasn't replaced theirs. They have their public works director, I think, serving that role. There's others around the Denver area that are looking. So it's a very competitive market right now. Henceforth, the reason why I went with a third party to help us with this, because I think that is going to be a longer search. So I think if we get a planner 2 in here or a senior planner even, because we have some pretty good applicants for that. And I think if we get them in here and they start getting experience with us along with Jacobs Engineering, it will serve our community too better than just finding anybody to be our planning director. It'll give us more time to search for a really good planning director.
Okay.
You guys interview for a planning director. Do you do different panels?
We do.
Would you consider, even though it would be during the day, having one with the planning commissioners or involving the planning commissioners?
I never have considered that before. This is a role that serves the town manager. And I think it's still my decision who we need to hire. And I was hired by the board of trustees to make that decision.
No, you misunderstand.
And I know Kathy, you've served as a town manager for the town of Monument before. And so you probably understand my consideration on it.
Towns have different boards and you can get feedback from them. They don't make decisions.
Yeah, I'd be glad to get feedback, but
Yeah.
I'm still gonna make
That's
the
what
decision.
I don't think we would pick it.
Mr. Foreman, sir, I got a question regarding the former directors. Is there a statute on them coming back or working within El Paso County or within any of the contractors that are here that present items to the town of Monument? Is there any limitations that they have within the contractual basis to prevent them from, let's say, presenting cases back to Monument, being as influential as they are within the Board of Trustees, Planning Commission, staff across the board? Is there any statutes that limit them from doing that?
No, there's not.
Perfect.
No,
Thank you.
none of the employees that work for the town of Monument are under contracts other than me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to take this opportunity. Again, I've pointed this out before. I've been on this planning commission longer than any commissioner. I've been on here as a alternate and then as a permanent commissioner since 2015. Debbie has sat over there all during that time. And during that time, Debbie has always maintained her professional composure, just as she did tonight when there were controversies.
Kicking her under.
I have to do my job. So.
And Debbie has worked for 3 different directors since I've been on the commission, of which 2 were excellent. And she had to suffer under one, okay? But Debbie.
No names, please.
When the town manager submitted you to be the employee of the year last year, he made a wise decision. And having you here has really been a blessing. You have always responded to any questions that I would ask before a meeting. You never tried to influence me on how I might want to act up here, and I'm sure that my actions sometimes perturbed you. But you're just a very, very wonderful person, and I wish you the very best going forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to say it's been a pleasure working for the town and being your planner too and presenting in front of you all. I will miss you all. I will miss Monument. This was my home and I loved it. My daughter goes to Bear Creek and she loves it here too, but it's been hard not being with family, and our family is in Florida. So I want to thank you all and thank the residents. I do read your comments. I don't respond. I don't always agree, but and I do agree sometimes, but I can't say that. But I will miss the residents. I will miss my friends that I have made here. I will miss the planning commission, and I will miss our applicants. They have been great to me, and I'm happy that Randy and Darlene stayed. They didn't even have to, and they're still here. So thank you.
All right. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you. I'll adjourn.
No, I mean, there's no like non-compete.
Well, you know, didn't want to let me next.